as though they were. In Canada, in a church, one Sunday afternoon, I never will forget it. They didn't have any air conditioner. I was sweating then more than I am now under these lights. I was wringing wet with sweat. I never will forget that afternoon. And they pushed the man with the wheelchair down there. About 40 or 50 people came to the altar, and the man with the wheelchair came down. His legs was twisted and crooked. You could tell he'd been crippled for 20 or 30 years. He'd been that way for years. You could just tell it. And the Lord said to me, "Son, what you taught today would work for him if he would obey it." I said, "Glory to God." I said, "Sir, I call those things that be not as though they were." And the Lord just said to me that what I taught today would work for you if you'd obey it. Now, look at your crooked legs and call them straight. He goes, "What?" I said, "Didn't you hear me for the last hour and a half?" He said, "Yeah." I says, "Well, obey what I taught." He goes, "What?" I said, "I taught call those things that be not as though they were. God said it worked for you. Call your crooked legs straight. Look at them and call them straight." He goes, and he wouldn't do it. He just wouldn't do it. I says, "Well, God told me it'd work for me if he did it. So I think I'll just demolish his mind." Most people's minds needs to be totally demolished. And so I grabbed a hold of the banister of the church like this, and I knelt down I put my mouth close to his ear, and I said, "Call your crooked legs straight, call 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 your crooked legs straight. Sir, call your crooked legs straight, call your crooked legs straight." And I kept on and on and on, and the longer I went, the louder I got. Call your crooked legs. And finally, I blasted through his goofy mind. Oh. Well, that's not easy to do with most humans, you know, especially if you've been trained one way for years. And I said, "Call your crooked legs straight." And finally he looked at him, he says, "I call my crooked legs straight." I said, "Say it again." "I call my crooked legs straight. I call the crooked legs straight. I call the crooked legs straight. I call the crooked legs straight." I says, "Keep on." And he said, "I call the crooked legs straight." I said, "Thank God, I'm about out of breath." I said, "Keep on now, keep on. Don't stop. Sir, don't stop." I began to back away from him. "Don't stop. Don't stop. Keep on and on and on and on. Don't stop. Don't stop. Keep on and on. Don't stop." And he sat there, I guess, for about 5 minutes, and I was ministering to other people over here, and I looked around there, and the Spirit of God was all over him. I mean, he was totally saturated, and he had broken, and began to cry and weep, and he was saying, "I call my crooked legs straight. I call my crooked legs straight. I call the crooked legs straight. I call the crooked legs straight. I call the crooked legs straight." I said, "Keep on, keep on." And he kept on, and just being saturated by the power of God. And all of a sudden, he just went across the floor. The pastor went. The pastor said he ain't never done anything like that before. And I said he never sat there and called his crooked legs straight before either. Romans 4:17 says, "Call those things that be not as though they were."